I told all you people out there last week that I was going to do everything I can to win this ratings war. And now, with the help of this man, Billy C. Wirtz, I'm not only going to be producing shows, I'm going to be producing hard times for all you other people airing in this time slot. Tell them, Hulse.
That's right. Listen up, all you little wannabe video pencil necks out there. Larry the Man right here is bringing it to you. No holds barred, in the cage. Be ready, baby, because you're going down.
Of this show, I feel it my responsibility to assure all those people out there who've been worried about Reverend Billy Wirtz being a little bit risque, perhaps. I'm going to give you my personal assurance that nothing on this show will be offensive to anyone, right?
Well, that's a matter of relativity. If you voted for Jesse Helms, if you find Married with Children offensive on a regular basis, and you don't let the kids watch The Simpsons, I suggest you turn off the TV right now. Otherwise, stick around. We'll have some fun. Yeah! I started out playing music when I was about 11 years old, and the Ventures were real popular, and the Beatles and people like that. And I was always more oriented towards the Elvis Presley and the rockabilly guys, and that sort of school of music. When I was about 12, I got my first blues album, which was the Paul Butterfield Blues Band, and from there I quickly moved to like Muddy Waters and things like that. As far as the humor goes, I played with some bands, and all the other guys were better looking, and their parents would let them grow their hair longer and that kind of thing. And I think the first funny song I ever did that I can recall was I was with a band called Thomas Tuff and the Soul Exhaustion. And I did a song called Long Tall Texan, which the Beach Boys and a few other people had covered. And the whole thing, the funny part leads up at the end to where you think the guy's going to say the ASS word, and he says, oh rah, is that your animal? And it loses something in the translation, but it was the first laugh that I had really gotten on stage playing music. And so I continued to do that kind of with some bands for the next couple of years, and then the band I was with decided they wanted to be a real serious Crosby, Stills and Nash meaningful type of group, so I was kind of thrown out of the band and didn't play music from the time I was 16 till the time I was in my early 20s.
I'm ready, how about y'all?
I was working at a camp in Winchester, Virginia, at a summer camp, and during the winter months I'd go down and play in the lodge and the piano down there for something to do. And there was a little hillbilly bar down the road from me.
Just remember, if you do turn up for work late tomorrow.
Right off the bat, I started doing some of the funnier stuff and some of the fast rap things, and I used to light the piano on fire. We'd do great balls of fire, and I had an electric Wurlitzer, and I put aluminum foil over the top of it and poured lighter fluid in it, and I'd throw a match to it, and the guys would just say, man, that's great. That's cool as hell, buddy. Man, he just lit that son of a bitch on fire. It was great. And so that kind of made a big hit.
What a big hand. What about a big hand for the Kiss My Ass shoes, ladies and gentlemen?
So I started doing this solo in 1982, and it has just evolved and continues to evolve. It's tamer than it used to be. At one time I wore nurses' dresses and screamed songs about Marsha Brady with a blow-up doll on stage and that kind of thing, and had trouble getting gigs here and there.
Really good to be back here. It's been a wild summer as usual, and I've been on the road the whole time. Started out down in southern Alabama. Real good to look out in the front row and see front teeth for a change. Spent 2 weeks of people looking at me like, he ain't from here. That paint his hair. Bubba, what do you think we ought to do with it? I don't know. Last thing that looked like that, we're going to shoot it, take a Earl shot for a coat of primer.
Now it just feels real natural. I write some material and some of it just kind of occurs. I mean, that's part of the big thing about live shows is people come and you never know quite what to expect, because I don't know what to expect. I mean, the other night at the Skylight, I was in the middle of a song and a fly landed on the end of my nose. And that was probably the funniest moment of the evening, and you just sort of try and play off of something like that. So that's kind of how it works. And there's more than enough material in current 1991 society to find things to do humor on. And so I just tried, the concept that I have is I try to do classic type of musical stylings with boogie woogie and country and western, and then add some new, more topical lyrics.
All sides down in Orlando, Florida. September 28th of next month, I'm going to be 37 years old. And I'm not ashamed to be that old. A few things have happened in the past few years that have made me real glad to be alive and happy to be doing what I'm doing and all that good kind of stuff with my life. But for the first time in my life, I felt old because I was sitting at the pool and these teenagers were listening to some god-awful, hideous combination of rap and heavy metal. The guitar playing sounded like Chuck Berry was having an allergic seafood reaction. And the singer kind of sounded like a small mammal's first experience with an electric fence. For the first time in my life, I felt like turning around and going, "You call that crap music? Turn that shit down. Let me tell you something. Iron Butterfly, now that was a good damn." Isn't it a horrifying thought to know that the bands that we used to sit around and go to parties and do bong hits to when we were kids, or someday they're going to end up just like everybody else, doing bad commercials on TV. Probably won't be long before you see, "Oh, won't you fly, free bird?" Hi, I'm Johnny Van Zandt of the Leonard Skinner Band. If you own a copy of Free Bird, I want to talk to you about Hooked on Phonics. I think Jerry Garcia could do good commercials for Slim Fast. Ozzy Osbourne for Holly Farms. All right, sorry. Joni Mitchell would be a natural for Polygrip with them big chompers of hers, you know? Or better yet, that song hers, let's see, "Help me, I think I'm falling." I'm not going to make you suffer through that one. Sorry.
There's lots of honky-tonk songs. There's not one about honky-tonk hermaphrodites. And so I did that. And then, of course, everybody was doing "I'm a Man," so I did a version called "I'm a Sissy." And just try and give the people a little bit something different.
Certain people, though, they came along when they had to, because otherwise, well, they wouldn't make any sense. I mean, Bo Diddley as a yuppie. Bo Diddley got a fax machine. Elvis Presley as a politically correct Elvis Presley as a politically correct animal rights activist. Well, you aren't anything but a canine earth resident. You got it, good. All right. James Brown from my hometown as a New Ager. Wow, I feel secure. You get them, that's good. We can talk about political correctness in here. A lot of places I do it, just right by, you know. You better hurry up and say something about monster trucks and queers. You can't play Bob Seger, you suck, and we're going to beat your ass. I'll do the best I can. It was so bad the other night I had my first politically correct dream. I dreamed I was in southern Alabama. Not only did I have a bad gig, but I got beat up. Been known to happen. And I went to the clinic the next day, and the guy in line ahead of me, the lady said, "Sir, what is your occupation?" And he said, "I am a non-goal-oriented member of society," which is the politically correct term for wino. I walked up to the desk, and I'm hurting real bad. I said, "Excuse me, ma'am, are you the nurse?" She said, "No, I'm the healthcare administrative assistant." "Why, are you some kind of a comedian, buddy?" I said, "No, ma'am, I'm an endorphin emissions engineer." bitch. We're just politically correct for bitch. And I went back to the doctor. He said, sir, what happened? And I said, doctor, I met a sex industry employee. Titty dancer. And we went back to her affordable modular housing. Trailer, very good. Where we proceeded to emote in a physical/sexual manner to the ethnocentristic rhythms of a traditional Texas trio. Go at it like a couple of coyotes to a ZZ Top tape. Until the return of her traditionally oriented, significant Caucasian house partner, redneck husband, who then led me on a therapeutic misadventure. Kicked my ass. I'm sorry, I'll play the piano. Piano has been worked on and it's in great tune, and as a result I'm going to play some of my goofy stuff, but I'll play a lot of blues for you tonight. I hope you don't mind that. I just feel like stretching out and playing a little bit tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, into this den of politically correct, caffeine-soaked iniquity, it's time to bring you once again the heavenly strains from yours truly, the very heavily strained Reverend Billy C. Wirtz, director of the First House of Polyester Worship and Horizontal Throbbing Teenage Desire. And our First Lady of the White Go-Go Boot, Lord of the 40-watt undulating bubbling lava lamp, apocalyptic no pizza takeout out black velveteen interfaith love chapel all the way from Chromosome, North Carolina. Did somebody say amen? Amen.
This next song is Daddy Was a Sensitive Man. I listen to country radio a lot, and all the songs are sort of blue-collar oriented, like Daddy's Hands and Coal Miner's Daughter. And I thought, gee, what about these kids like in Chapel Hill that have daddies that go to like male bonding seminars and take off their shirts and beat on drums around Asheville for $500 a weekend and that sort of thing. And I thought, you know, the kids like that need some role model songs too, and they're not going to have any, so that's why I wrote Daddy Was a Sensitive Man.
He recycled everything, mowed the grass by hand. Tuna never touched our table, because my daddy was a sensitive man. When I was a pre-adult, you got that politically correct for kid, all right? When I was a pre-adult, I was so proud of my pop. He never worked in a coal mine, but he owned a futon shop. At night he'd come home tired, with polyurethane in his hair, and then he'd kick off his Birkenstocks and yell, who's got quality time to spare? We'd sit down at the table, Mom and Dad and I, hold hands and chant our mantras to the co-op gods on high. Sometimes we didn't have much, and Daddy would get mad and cuss, and we'd say, your feelings are valid, thanks for sharing them with us. Well, one night he came home early, I heard a big loud scream. Mama was watching a soap opera and eating a devil dog filled with cream. I said, Daddy, what do you think we ought to do with Mama now? He said, son, there's a time for praying and a time you just say, wow. All the other kids in the neighborhood went to ball games and worked on cars. But we'd hop on our mountain bikes and had the family awareness seminars. He never took me hunting. We never messed with guns or pistols. On Saturdays we'd play our recorders or go in the basement and stare at crystals. I can remember my first time channeling. I can remember my first time channeling. I messed up and he heard me sniffle. I was trying to bring back Gandhi. I ended up with Arnold Ziffel. He ran a hand through his dreadlocks, scratched the little beard on his chin, and said, don't worry, son, even Yoko Ono hits a bad note now and then. Daddy and me went for a ride in the Volvo late one night. Some roughnecks in the parking lot tried to push him in a fight. My daddy walked on up to the biggest, meanest thug and said, it's good you're in touch with that anger, and now how about a hug?
This next song is Brenda. This has become one of my more requested songs as of late. Don't ask me how I got the idea for this. I mean, I say on stage that sat down, I never consciously thought of a song including UFOs, truck driving, and alternative lifestyles for women, but it kind of ended up that way. Probably just a few too many years on the road. I think it first came to me as I was in a traffic jam in Jacksonville, Florida, of all places. But then again, a traffic jam in Jacksonville is a pretty appropriate place to think up a song that ultimately ended up like that.
My car broke down in Alabama and it left me in one hell of a jam, so I got out on the highway to thumb a ride. When all of a sudden it was just my luck, I heard the air brakes of a great big truck. That driver pulled over and I ran up and jumped inside. Brother, I know I'll never forget that night, 'cause my eyes beheld the unearthly sight of an alien being sitting behind the wheel. Oh my God. It had one big eye and skin like clay, 5 tentacles waved when it said hey, and I had no clue as to its gender. Had a voice just like the farmer's daughter, and a purple crew cut like Sergeant Carter. Was a big and scary interplanetary truck driving lesbian named Brenda. It smiled and said, "I'm willing to bet of all the places you've been, this ain't happened yet." And I said, "Well, you got that shit right, but it really ain't no big thing." She said, "Let's get this straight between us. I'm a big mother trucker from the planet Venus, and I came to Earth to get some tapes of Katie Lang." And I smiled and thought, "Ooh, what a relief," because I'd already gotten in touch with my grief at the thought of being a slave on a non-male-oriented planet. She was saying Katie's our favorite singer when this guy cut us off, and he gave her the finger, and she reached out a tentacle and yanked off his back fender. My little redneck jerk had been trying to tease us right there on the spot, gave up his life to Jesus when he got an outball and my big and scary interplanetary truck driving lesbian buddy named Brenda. She humped and said, "I didn't mean to be rude, and now we can get a little earthling food." We pulled up at the exit at a place called Darlington's Truck Stop. I thought to myself when we hit the door, boy, I wonder if these guys have seen a Venusian before, and I forgot all about it when I saw Katie's cassettes in the gift shop. We sat down in the nearest booth, and I was being a little anxious to tell you the truth, because Brenda kept reading her menu upside down. Then she said, "Give me a bowl of raw bacon fat," and then the waitress smirked, "You want grits with that?" Everybody laughed, and I knew I'd have to defend her. So this fat guy yelled, "I ain't never seen the light." Then a scrawny one hollered, "It's a Star Trek dyke," and my big and scary interplanetary about to be real pissed off. So this guy named Dwayne cuts loose with a whistle, nailed Brenda in the head with a hush puppy missile, and I stood up and said, "Y'all are some real ignorant sons of bitches." Brenda jumped up at the speed of warp 10, said, "You want to play games, little earthling men?" and reached down and pushed the Sinead O'Connor death ray belt buckle on her britches. Boy, best laugh that one's gotten in a while. All right. Oh my God, it's another jacket underneath the jacket. All right, sorry, I'm too hot. I got it, sorry, didn't mean to break up the song, sorry. And pushing the Sinead O'Connor on her britches. The fat guy disintegrated, and she started giggling. The scrawny one levitated and hung there wiggling, and Dwayne's hot dog was reduced to a little tiny cinder. And I grabbed those tapes of Katie Lang, and she leveled that salad bar with a big bang. My big and scary interplanetary should not have been with buddy named Brenda. We got back to the truck, and just in case, put an energy force field around the place, and nobody would be stopping at Darling's anymore. Just for a little bitty joke between us, she teleported them rednecks to the planet Venus and forced them to work as clerks at the alternative bookstore. She looked at me and with a tear in her eyes said, "My time is up, little earthling guy, but if you get up to Venus, you stop in and see me and visit." And I said, "You got it, that's a big tip for us." I jumped out and slammed that semi-door. I could hear her singing 4 bars of Return to Cinder. You know, every now and then I'll look up in the sky and think of them tentacles and that one big eye, them rednecks up there probably wishing the hell Dwayne hadn't thrown that hush puppy. They are big and scary, interplanetary, truck driving lesbian buddy. Hey, Brenda! Goodbye, Brenda! Thank y'all.
The first album that I did, actually I've done 3 albums. My first album was called Salvation Through Polyester. There was about 1,000 copies made, and we recorded it at 10 years after in Hickory, North Carolina. And it was then known as Fast Company. And it's a pretty wild album. Easy Riders liked it a lot. They gave it a good review, and a couple other places reviewed it. And it quickly went out of print. I think I've got a couple of copies of it. The first national release was Deep Fried and Sanctified, and that was on the King Snake label. Bob Greenlee, who owned the label, called me up in Raleigh in '86, the end of '86, and said, let's make a record. So I said, okay, and we went down there, and it took a couple of years to get it out, but we got it out, and then I told them about the option, and they put the second album, which is Backslider's Tractor Pull. And we have a third album that we'll be doing here pretty soon. I'm not sure exactly when we're going to get started on it.
When I tell you to hold it, I want you to stop it. Don't you move the muscle.
They've done real well. They've helped spread the message a little bit more. They've got me some airplay on some radio stations. Certain markets, they've really, really helped a lot. Pittsburgh, Tampa, Florida, places like that. I've made some real serious inroads in there. Because you can play clubs forever and ever, and until you get something that they're playing on the radio, it's just kind of hard to draw people into the club to see you. There's all kinds of different places that I like playing, and I've played just about every gig. I played from everything in front of 15,000 bikers, doing a 1-hour show, and then emceeing a wet t-shirt contest, and to some of the most outback little bars. I played in Norway, I played in Poland. In terms of places to play, as the music gets more involved with the lyrics and that kind of thing, and sometimes we'll have something that starts at the beginning of a set, that at the end of a set you still sort of have to, it's kind of like this musical soap opera or something, or at least callbacks to characters. If people haven't been drinking a lot, it helps. So that's one reason why I really like playing the Skylight in Chapel Hill, is it's one of the few music rooms. A lot of the comedy rooms are okay because they don't drink that much, because the drinks are too damn expensive and they're only in there for an hour and a half. But the Skylight is kind of, it's known for me playing just forever and ever and ever, and the crowd is there and they're quiet and they're real attentive, and you can really get a good feeling going when the crowd, is with you like that and they're paying attention. Such a man as Jesse Helms just deserves, I think, all the musical, political commentary that one can come up with. He certainly has no problem letting his feelings be known, and one of the things that gets him elected year after year by a portion of the populace of this state is because, yes, he speaks his mind. Well, a few others of us like to speak our mind too, and so this is it's sort of a fantasy. It obviously didn't happen in real life, but I always kind of thought, here's this guy that rages on about the homosexuals and this kind of thing, and I thought, gee, what would happen if he was broken down one night and it was pouring down rain and a group of homosexuals pulled over to help him? Would he still be so, hardcore about that kind of thing? And so this song, the next piece, is kind of like taking that concept and expanding it into a fantasy and a life-saving situation. And it doesn't pretend to be unbiased at all. It's a very biased thing. And but then I try to balance it off with some songs about Chapel Hill and that kind of thing in the course of a show. And actually, some of people that were major Helms supporters came to hear it and laughed quite a bit at it, because, I don't think it's necessarily, it's more done out of, from the point of absurdity rather than, who wants to hear yet another person playing on a guitar going, Jesse sucks? We'd much rather hear something that's a little bit more ludicrous.
Every day at the Senate, you could see him arrive. His age and IQ were both about 65. Narrow in the mind, red in the neck. Nobody knew just what to expect from Big Jess. Big Jess. Oh, sorry, Big Jess. Big Jess. What a mess. It's Big Jess. Nobody really knew what made him so mean. Some said it was a lack of something in his genes. See, now you guys get that part of it. All the other places I play, they're like, well, finish it first. Come on, hurry up. Sure. You can't play Bob Seger and that ain't your hair. Sure. Nobody really knew what made him. It's kind of like when you learn the Gettysburg wearing a dress in high school, I can't start from the middle. I got to take him the whole day. All right. Some speculated he'd been dropped on his head or that his family were bakers and they were a little inbred. Big Jess. The press and the critics all thought it was scary that his butt was in D.C. and his mind in Mayberry. Press and the critics never bothered him a bit, but those hairy-legged feminists nearly made him aware of TV mad. Jesse got his kicks. Some said he stayed at home looking at funny pics, thinking about the artist and who'd pay the bill, fantasizing about putting fences around Chapel Hill. Big Jess. What a bitch. It's Big Jess. Jess went swimming and almost ended up dead. A wave came along and it knocked him sprawling, pulled him out to sea, screaming and bawling. Jess. Jesse figured it was over and the devil was even, but then along in a rowboat came a fella named Stephen. Jesse hollered, help me, I'm Senator Jess. And Stephen said, you're getting sunburned and your hair is a mess. Next has never been explained clearly. You might say Jesse began to behave rather queerly. He said, you got it all wrong. I'm a misunderstood man. And by the way, Stephen, you got a very savage tan. Where to see, Jess? So Stephen threw Jesse a life preserver, and Jesse wondered how he'd explain it to the News and Observer. He said, you know, Stephen, you're a real good pal. And that night they went dancing at the Capitol Corral. You can bet all the Republicans made a hell of a noise when Jesse admitted, I'm one of the boys. And the folks in the Senate knew he was under the weather when he appeared on the floor dressed in tight black leather. Looks Jess. Commies and criminals were no longer his passion, so Jess became a designer for senior men's fashion. And the chances of this happening are really pretty pale, but it's kind of nice to think of Jesse Helms as sort of a little fairy tale. Big Jess. Big Jess. What a mess. It's Big Jess.
When I was growing up, three things that I wanted to be was a funny man, a musician, and a pro wrestling manager. At a very young age, I used to watch a guy named Wild Red Berry and another guy named Bobby Davis, who were world famous wrestling managers. And I used to come to the dinner table and recount all the things that I'd seen on wrestling. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the child psychologist told my parents that it was not conducive to my development for me to watch wrestling, which instantly, made it a necessary daily item in my life, if possible. So I don't know why. I just always liked those guys in the really loud outfits and stuff like that could get up and, would stand in front of the camera and go, now let me tell all you little ignorant snuff dippers out there what's going to happen when this man gets in the ring. And at any rate, wrestling managing done at its best is pretty high comedy. And I've worked with professional wrestling in Florida, and I may be continuing on with a couple of other federations here in the future. And so I think the latest character is a support character for a wrestler named Skinner, who's sort of this Florida swamp type person, and I came up with a character who's his cousin. Well, it's actually his nephew. Well, actually, it's his son by the name of Bobby G. Netik.
Hey, boy, you lost, ain't you? You look kind of scared. You ought to be. There's a whole lot of things to be scared about back here in this swamp. Some of them walks on 4 legs. Some of them kind of crawls around on 8. But the one you got to worry the most about kind of slinks around on 2. And his name is Skinner. He get a hold of you, you go wish you'd tangle with a gator. I ain't scared of him because he's my uncle. Well, actually, he's my brother. Well, actually, he's my daddy, but down here it don't make a whole lot of difference. But you watch out for Skinner, because he'll get you, boy. He'll get you good.